What I mean when I say free thinker is a person who makes their own choice. They're independent of the crowd. They're independent of a religion. They're independent of consulting with something outside of themselves. I think I'm more like the way Emerson talked about it in his essay called Self-Reliance. See, I rely on myself. I rely on my own feelings and thoughts. Yes, my feelings. That's what I consult. If something doesn't feel right, it sets off something in my mind and I investigate. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things aren't wrong. Maybe it's just an unusual situation. You know, whenever you feel that something's not right, you should take a look at it. You should examine it. How do we know anything is right or wrong? Well, that's an interesting question without a very simple, easy answer. I was thinking about something. And I know I mentioned this before, but I kept thinking about it because it was something I kept thinking over and over and over again. When I was in Spain, I went to this city called Algeciras. If you ever been to Spain and you ever went over to Morocco, you probably went to the city of Algeciras. It's like the closest point between Spain and Africa. And I took the train from Madrid to Algeciras. And I got off the train. And I knew there was no like regular there's a public transportation, but I don't know that system that well. So I knew I was going to have to take a cab. So I took a cab from my hotel because I had the name of the hotel and everything. I asked the cab driver, you know, how much it would cost to get to this particular address. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, and it was something, the way he looked at me, the way he smiled, something about the way he said it in his voice and everything. He said it was 10 euros. But he said it's all in Spanish. 10 euros. I like the way to say euros. 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 Anyway, that's not the point. The point isn't about the Spanish thing. The thing is that I knew something wasn't right. But I thought, okay, I don't know how much it costs to take a cab. I don't know anything, but I was suspicious. But I said, you know what? I need to get to my hotel. So I paid the 10 euros and I went. And I got to my hotel. And just, you know, with that thought on my mind, I asked the woman at the desk. At that time, I didn't know her name. Now I know her name. Her name is Miriam. Oh, she was so beautiful. Anyway, but I'm getting off the point. Oh, Miriam. Oh, Miriam, my little señorita. But anyway, let me just not go there. I'm just still in love with Miriam. Anyway, the thing is that she told me that it was 10, it shouldn't cost no more than 6 euros to go from the train station to the hotel, I would say. In that area is where, and you know, here's the thing, that I discovered she was closer to the truth. It wasn't exactly that. It was actually 5 euros every time. And I know because I had to go back over that way, for example, close to this area where the port was, where you take the boat going across to Africa. And then I had to go there for something else. And then I had to take several cab rides. And every time going back and coming back the other way, it was always 5 euros. So the cab driver cheated me. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know exactly what. And the first thought that popped in my mind is, I think this guy overcharged me. But I wasn't sure. But what alerted me wasn't any particular thing I could point to. It was just a feeling. Now, it's not a supernatural thing. Not even psychic in the way that people think about it. But all of us have moments when we just feel that something's not right. Now I want to get back into my thing. I'm talking about the tyranny of the crowd. Sometimes we follow a crowd. And we use a crowd to help us to the way I like to use this word is we use it to navigate through reality. We kind of navigate through reality. We know what's right and what's wrong because of what the crowd says. We know what we should do or we shouldn't do because of what the crowd does. And we learn to not trust our own feelings about things, but just trust the crowd. Well, I think that if we think about that enough and we look at history enough, we begin to realize there's a great danger to that. I mean, yeah, I could use all examples in history of everything from slavery to Nazi Germany to everything else. When you follow the crowd, you know, you could wind up in big trouble. Not that following the crowd always leads you to trouble, but I'm sure in situations where people did terrible things, they knew in their heart something was wrong. They knew deep in their gut something was wrong, but they ignored that gut feeling and they stuck with the crowd. They ignored that feeling that said something's not right. I don't know what it is, but something's not right. If only they had trusted that feeling. It's not that the feeling gives you details. You know, it's just like with the situation with the cab driver. My feeling doesn't tell me the details. That requires intellectual. That requires investigation. That requires logic and reason. But the logic and reason combined with the feeling are where we get to something. That's when we get to something that's good. You know, if you just follow your feelings, then that's just like groping along in the dark. And if you follow intellect, you know, you could just be a cold person, coldly intellectual without any feelings about things. It's kind of like what Aldous Huxley said, you know. I have that video clip, and if you look at my favorites, it's on there somewhere. The thing he was saying, you know, intellectual think. Well, I can't say it the way he said it because he said it beautifully. I love Aldous Huxley. He's cool. And I recommend people read him. I haven't read him, so I'm not going to lie, but I actually have 3 of his books, which I have to read. I have Doors of Perception, The Perennial Philosophy, and Brave New World, which I plan to read. Now that for some reason, I stumbled across a video on YouTube, several videos of Aldous Huxley. So I kind of revived my interest. And I've had those books for like 20 years sitting around here. But the thing is, you have to trust your feelings. There are a lot of people who say you shouldn't trust your private feelings. Even Richard Dawkins said that, and I disagree with that. I think you have to trust your private feelings. But you have to combine that with reason. In other words, it's a combination, not just one or the other. See, I don't believe in that either you do this or you do that, but the combining your feelings with intellect. And that's the proper combination, instead of getting caught up in a crowd where you can wind up doing all kinds of terrible things and wind up being a slave to the crowd.